We've got a lot to talk about today.
Big week.
It is a big week. Eagles-Lions on Sunday Night Football, just around the corner here. So we want to get into those matchups a little bit later. Jaire Alexander stepped away from football since the last podcast. Surprisingly, that is not the biggest story of the week. We're going to talk about A.J. Brown, his comments, kind of break all that down. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast brought to you by Nissan. He's Ruben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. Rube, it's going to be a busy show.
Yeah, well, we're squeezing, it's a short week, so we're squeezing a lot of content into, we'll try to keep it to 3 hours, 3.5 hours, and our third podcast in 2.5 days.
Yeah, and the Eagles are never short on content for us. They are not a boring team. They are a lot of things. They're not boring.
I've been doing this a long time. They've never been boring. Like, they're never just an 8-8 average, quiet team just going about their business. They're always... Yeah, I mean, lately they've always been really good, but there were certainly years where they weren't. But when they're bad, they're really, really bad. So there's always some kind of drama.
Yeah, they're a bit of a blessing for two guys who talk about them full time.
True.
Yeah, they give us
no shortage of topics.
Yeah, definitely no shortage of content. So look, I understand a lot of people are tired of hearing us talk about AJ, hearing AJ talk about his frustration, and look, I get all that. We're going to talk about it a little bit today. We're also going to talk about some other things. So if you're kind of checked out on the conversation, totally get it. You can fast forward a little bit, but we're going to talk about it. But I think before we talk about what AJ had to say on Wednesday in the locker room, I think it is worth it. We don't play a lot of sound on this podcast, but we have a chunk of it because I think it's important if people haven't heard it to actually hear what he said. So we're going to play that now, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it.
The comments that you made on the stream that have been making the rounds, was there any perspective or explanation that maybe you wanted to give everyone for some context behind those comments?
Which comments are you referring to?
I believe it was a Twitch stream where you said, you alluded to the fact that you weren't totally happy or things weren't going well work-wise.
Yeah, I think I think that's fair. I think if you got eyes, you can see that. The same things I've been saying like all season. So me making light of my situation on Twitch with my friend. That's something I'm not apologizing for. Because like I said, if you got eyes, you can see that. And so that's me trying to laugh through my situation. So yeah. I see that the offense struggling, and I want to help contribute. And I didn't get those opportunities, and so I'm gonna have a problem with that, especially the player I am, and especially the player you want me to be as a player. And I'm that's tough for me. And that's tough for everybody else because everybody want to contribute. Even Smith said somebody had to make the play, so we're trying to put ourselves in the best situation to make those plays. You just got to get an opportunity, and I didn't get that. I think it's fair for me to even say, I feel like we do need to do a better job of creating for me, trying to help put me in a situation to help to contribute. But right now it just feels as if, I'm just freeing it up for everybody.
What do you think it is?
I can't answer that.
AJ, how do you square your situation with the fact that team's 7-2?
It's not just solely about my situation. I mean, guys, obviously I want to win too, and I think if we're really focusing on winning and doing our job, we can't just keep slapping the Band-Aid over the defense doing their job and getting us out of trouble. At what point are we going to pick up our slack as an offense that we're so great, and that's what I'm getting at. It's not about we're not winning or I don't care about winning. All I care about is stats. No, it's been week after week sometimes we're not contributing, we're not doing our job on offense. So you can't just keep slapping the Band-Aid over that and you expect to win late in the year and you think you're going to go to it at the end of the year. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And last year what it was, thank you for the ring, but it's a new season. They adapted. We have to adapt and we have to continue to get better and try to find new ways. So that's where the frustration comes in because it's not about winning, you guys. I want to win, yes. I want to help contribute as well. Do our thing on offense as well. I think that's fair.
Yeah, so there you have it, Rube. I was in that scrum yesterday. First off, credit to AJ for standing there and doing it. and not, I think he was pretty clear this time with his message. There was no cryptic post involved here. This was pretty straightforward. He's frustrated. He told you why he's frustrated. We can argue about, the way he disseminated that information in the first place, but to me, at least, this was straightforward. This was a guy who is frustrated, explained why.
Yeah, and I respect him for doing that and not, the enigmatic social media posts. I mean, he was straightforward and he's right. I mean, he's absolutely right. And, is it productive for him to do all this stuff? Oh, we could debate that, but there's a problem with the offense. They're 26th in the league with this talent, and that's outrageous, really. So I get it. I mean, he's one of the best receivers in the league, and the one thing he didn't say was whose fault is it, but it's a pretty short list of
Yeah,
of
there aren't
people.
that many options.
Yeah, so where's it going to go? Where's it going to lead? I don't know. I think with each passing week, people are asking me, is he going to be here next year? I think if this keeps going, I think we know the answer. He's not. I mean, you could probably get a first-round pick for him. They could draft a receiver. Receivers come out of college, and you just get the best available Ohio State guy, and and you move forward. And I don't think that's a lock, but I think it's kind of trending that. It looks like that might happen at this point, which is a shame because the guy's so good. And, it would be a shame to lose him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's getting ahead of
Yeah.
the situation a little bit. I
This is
think,
bad.
yeah, it's not ideal, but this is not the first time he's voiced frustration, and he talked about falling on the sword yesterday, and I think he does view this as part of his role, his leadership role, is that like he's not afraid to have these uncomfortable moments if it helps the team get better. Now we'll see if it works this time. But, he basically did call out the coaching staff saying that he thinks they need to find ways to get him involved. And they're not doing that right now. I think that comment was as close as he got to saying, hey, this is the problem, fix it.
Yeah.
And that's the coaching. Like I think part of it is the quarterback, part of it's the coaching, a part of it's probably the receiver himself. Maybe if you're someone who's out there thinking he could have said I can be better, probably true as well. But I think the biggest fear here is not. And Nick Sirianni was asked on Wednesday if this is becoming a distraction. I think that becomes that gets talked about a lot. Like, is he a distraction in the locker room? Is that a problem? I don't get the sense that it is.
No.
I think he's close with a lot of his teammates. Even before he spoke on Wednesday, Saquon Barkley walked by and the two kind of chuckled about AJ getting ready to talk to the masses. So I don't think that's the problem. I think the bigger issue is if the things he's talking about don't get fixed, this team offensively might not be good enough to go where they want to go. And to your point, long term for him in the city, it decreases the chances he's going to be here.
That might be the longest you've ever spoken at once. I like that. That was good. I agree with everything you said. And I think out of all the things he said, the kind of indicating that Kevin Patullo and Nick Sirianni are a problem here. And I think he's probably talking more about Patullo, but I can't really. I think it's the whole offensive coaching staff. Maybe not his position coach, Aaron Moorhead, but the head coach is an offensive coach. They're his plays. It's his offense. Kevin Patullo's calling the plays, but they're both responsible for making this thing work, and it's not working. And he's dead on for calling them out. And I'm kind of glad he did it.
And I did ask him are these conversations you're having with them, because it's I don't know how productive it is if the first time he mentions it is in a public setting. But if he's been, talking behind the scenes and trying to get this right and bring his concerns to the coaching staff and it hasn't gotten fixed, then you do kind of understand him escalating it and bringing it public. And sometimes his method with doing it isn't great. Is it an ideal situation for him to be on a Twitch stream and kind of joking about it? Maybe not. But I also I understand his point about it too. Like, it's weighing on him very clearly. Like, he is a guy who is frustrated. He has a different demeanor about him, and he's normally pretty happy-go-lucky when we get the. We don't know him well, but like our interactions with him, and even in yesterday's press availability, he had some jovial moments. He's a pretty fun guy for the most part. It's clear this stuff is weighing on him.
Yeah, and as far as the locker room, I mean, I think every player on the team knows that he needs to get the ball more. So like it's not like there's no distraction. That's not an issue. I mean, yes, any of the 52 other guys on the roster, they're going to say, well, at least 51 of them, they're going to say he's got to get the ball more. I mean, because like you said, for this team to achieve its goals, which is winning a Super Bowl, he can't be a non-factor. It's that simple. You're not going to go where you want to go. And they beat the Packers scoring 10 points. The defense isn't going to hold everybody to 10 points. And yeah, it's a mystery to me. And there's some sort of, we talked to Jalen yesterday about, do you need to make sure you just get him his targets and get him the ball? And he said, I'm just going through my progression. So
I listened to Jalen. I wasn't there. You were in there for that. What did you make of? He acknowledged it. He understood that those questions were going to come. A little bit of brushing it off.
Yeah.
What'd you make of that? Because if he brushes it off publicly, I think that's okay. You kind of hope he's not brushing it off behind the scenes, because I think all of these concerns are very legitimate.
Yeah, and knowing him, his public persona and his behind closed doors persona completely different. Nick mentioned that he talks to AJ every day. Now, I'm going to assume that those conversations are about getting him the ball to some degree. They have to be, because what else is AJ going to go into Nick's office and talk about,
How's your dog? Why don't you pet your dog, Nick?
Why do you let Kevin pet your dog more than you do? So I'm look, knowing AJ, no, we don't know him, but knowing his personality and how frustrated he is, I can't imagine he's not talking to Nick and Petullo about this. It's unimaginable to me that that's not something that comes up regularly. And hopefully Jalen, I don't know. There's obviously, it's not a great relationship. I mean, that's pretty clear.
Or it at least isn't what it once was.
It doesn't have to be a great relationship as long as it's a great football relationship, which it's not right now. So I'm going to assume that these are conversations that are being held. We don't know that, but I sure hope so, because they need to be.
Yeah, those conversations need to happen, and they need to fix it. And it kind of goes the question about, they're 7-2 and he's unhappy. Why is that? It goes back to what could really be the theme of a lot of the Sirianni era, is winning versus playing to the standard, and how you treat those two things. Right? Like we've talked about it now for the last 3 years. We talked about it last year when they were a Super Bowl team, or they ended up being a Super Bowl team. It's like they're winning some games, they're doing it in weird ways, they're not dominant, and then they found the dominance, certainly, but I think that, to me, is one of like the biggest talking points of the Nick Sirianni era as Eagles head coach, is like they win all these games, but sometimes they don't play to the standard, and it's tough to really celebrate when you don't.
Yeah. I was shocked at the number of one possession games they've played under Nick. It's 38, and they're 30-8 in those games. And I want to say it's not sustainable, but that's a pretty big sample size, and they find ways to win.
Even for Jalen Hurts, who talks about, when did winning not become the main thing? Even we know, struggles when they don't play to what he calls the standard. It's I think to a man in that locker room, they deal with that exact dilemma.
Yeah. And look, in the short term, Sunday night's going to be really interesting, because as much as I appreciate the way the defense played Monday night in Green Bay, they're not going to hold the Lions to 10 points or 7 points. So they might need to score high 20s or more. I don't know. I'm not sure. This isn't the Giants they're playing. This is a pretty good team. So I'm really curious to see how it plays out here, and where it goes from here. I know they're all frustrated, but I don't know. I don't know if they can just magically turn it around.
And with AJ, some of the discourse, I get tired of it too. But is some of this selfishly motivated? Like, yeah, probably. I don't think that's unique. Like, is it all selfishly motivated? No, I don't think so. I think he does want the offense to be better, but in that he said it plainly, like he wants to be a bigger part of it because he knows he can help. But this is the same guy who before the season talked about wanting to put a stamp on being the best receiver in the NFL. And we know from game to game, the stats might not be there for any player, right? Like it kind of comes and goes, but we have a decent enough sample size this year to see that he's on the worst pace of his career statistic wise. And let's face it, that's how receivers are judged. Like him drawing Xavier McKinney's eyes on the game-winning touchdown, it's going to get overlooked sometimes. It doesn't show up in the stat sheet. Receivers want to see the numbers next to their name. That's just the nature of the position, the nature of the sport.
Yeah. Where do you think it goes from here? 8 games left.
Yeah, I think they are going to get better. And I think that some of the underlying issues we haven't even talked about, we're going to get to the injury report in a little bit. And it's kind of right there in front of you why this offense has not gotten going. I think the big difference from this season to last season is last season, at least they were hanging their hat on the run. And maybe his numbers weren't there. Maybe the offense, like the passing numbers weren't great all the time, but they could hang their hat on, we're going to punch you in the mouth and run the football. They don't have that this year. So to me, it is more concerning.
And he still had over 1,000 yards in, what did he play, 13 games last year, I think. So it wasn't another 1,400-yard season, but it was a pretty big factor for most of the year. This has been, he's basically 2 games. He's had 2 good games, or 2.5. I did not see this coming. So, you know what's going to happen? Like the first snap of the game, they're going to draw something up for AJ, and then like he'll get one more target. It's like that's not the answer to like, oh, let's get AJ the ball in the first play. It's got to be throughout the game.
Well, he got targets in the first couple of drives in Green Bay, and then it dried up until that final desperation heat.
Yeah.
Which wasn't, I guess, desperation. It was a weird play that we've talked about a bunch. But
way too much. Yeah. And I do think he can play better. Mm-hmm. Even on that play, I thought he could have been a little more physical coming back to the ball. Was underthrown. Maybe get a DPI. I do think physically he's not quite where he was last year. He had the hamstring. We know his, we know at some point last year he had his knees drained. And I think when you have your knees drained or a knee drained, you have to get that done again. I think it's a recurring thing. I don't know that, but I think that's the case. So I don't know. Maybe he's lost 5% of his speed. He's always been mainly a physical power guy, but he's also been fast. And that combination of things made him one of the best in the league. So maybe that's a part of it. I don't think it's any one thing. Obviously, Jalen has more confidence in Devontae right now, and Goddard, I guess. So curious to see where it goes.
Okay, that's been the AJ Brown portion of the podcast. So if you're joining us again, you skipped ahead through all that. We have a bunch of other stuff to talk about. Rube, the second player in a few weeks retired abruptly.
AJ?
Not AJ.
Yeah.
Look, the Eagles put Jaire Alexander on the reserve retired list. We heard on Tuesday night that he was stepping away from football. They're putting him on the list because you don't want him to take up a roster spot while he's deciding what he's going to do. So theoretically, maybe he decides to come back and the Eagles figure it out when they get there. But at least for now, he's not in their plans.
Yeah, and we talked about this the other day. When he didn't make the trip to Green Bay, where he played 7 years, something was weird about all that. So it wasn't really surprising that this happened. He practiced, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I can't imagine those practices went very well for this to happen. And, when I talked to him I guess it was on Thursday after practice, he was so upbeat. He was so excited to be here. That's what makes this all so weird. He was joking and happy and positive, and he said, I still have a lot left. I can be the player I used to be. I feel healthier than I felt in years. 4 days later, he's retired. I mean, it's just a really, like Zadarius Smith, he's an older guy, and he's been bounced around the league, and that wasn't shocking. It was surprising, but it wasn't shocking. He was playing well, which.
Yeah, I mean, I was more surprised when Zadarius, based on all the situation around, I was more surprised when Zadarius Smith retired than Jaire.
Oh yeah, no, I would agree with that. It's just, I mean, he was contributing. Jaire never played a snap for the team, never was even at a game. Practiced 3 days, and then look, he didn't play well at the end in Green Bay. He didn't play well the 2 games he played with the Ravens. Maybe he's just, and cornerbacks, when they lose half a step, they're cooked. So that could be, I mean, James Bradbury, that kind of thing. He went from being an all-pro to one of the worst corners in the league, like overnight. So maybe that's just what this is. And I enjoyed my one conversation with him, and I wish him the best.
Yeah, and he's dealt with this knee injury, and we get the sense that it really has been a struggle with him. And I think that's something we probably don't talk about enough, is the struggle for players mentally when injuries just sap you of what made you who you were as a player.
Yeah.
Like we've seen it with countless players. I think back to like Brandon Brooks when he retired. He was like, I can't keep doing this cycle of injury, rehab,
Yeah.
injury,
That's
rehab.
exactly what Jeremy Maclin said. He was still a young guy.
Yeah, it happens, and it really does drain your mental health when you're dealing with these things, and it creates like an identity crisis for a lot of players. And you get the sense maybe that was part of what Jaire was going through. So,
And
yeah.
I think at some positions you can learn to play with like diminished physical, like Kelsey, I think. I mean, with all the injuries he had over a decade, he's still a great player because he kind of learned how to play with those injuries, or not even just injuries, but just diminished physical ability, I guess, physical strength, physical health, whatever. So yeah, I think if the guys who are in the league a long time figure that out, because you play 17 years or 13 years, you're just not physically going to be the same guy.
The good news is the Eagles didn't really give up much to get Jaire. It was a lottery ticket. It was a late round pick swap. Obviously, it doesn't look like that trade worked out, but the chances that it worked out weren't great, but that's why it was such a minimal trade.
And for Howie, a 7 is no different than a 6.
Yeah.
And he'll probably turn that 7 into a 5.
He'll recoup the value. That's what he's really good at. The one funny part about this, Nick Sirianni on Wednesday said he really enjoyed his time with Jaire, and you and I were chatting. I was like, I think you might have talked to Jaire longer than Nick Sirianni did.
Probably.
Yeah. But we wish him well.
Yeah.
If he comes back, we'll let you know, but I think it seems unlikely.
It doesn't seem like it's headed that way.
Let's get to the injury report this week. Some good news and bad news on the first report on Wednesday. The Eagles did not practice, so the injury report was an estimation based on the walkthrough and who would have practiced if they were out there full go. I think the newsy item here is that Cam Jurgens returned as a limited participant with that knee injury. Cam's been a little more visible. I saw him in the locker room on the final day last week. He was in the locker room, at least walking around on Wednesday. So he's more visible back at practice. Looks like he maybe has a chance to play on Sunday.
And that's big. I mean, that's really big. And no, we hadn't gotten any information. Just the fact that they didn't put him on IR was encouraging.
Yeah, so typically, just to explain that, an IR stint is a minimum of 4 games. And the Eagles, if there's a chance a star player is going to be back within that 4-game span, they'll basically waste that roster spot for 2 or 3 weeks to make sure that they have that player back when he's ready to go.
Yeah, so Cam's missed 2 games now.
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Of the bye week.
Yeah, so although it's got to be 4 games, just to clarify that. But even if he misses 3 games, it's still worth it to have him for that 4th game and not put him on IR. So that's encouraging because we didn't really get a lot of info on that injury. We haven't seen him. Nick doesn't talk about injuries. So that was definitely encouraging.
The not so great news is that the Eagles had 4 players listed as limited participants on their Wednesday injury report. 4 of the 5 starting offensive linemen. That's not great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was Cam Jurgens with the knee, Lane Johnson with the ankle. Encouraging that he came back in the game and that he's listed as limited to start the week. The 2 new injuries, Landon Dickerson with a quad, Tyler Steen with an oblique. They just can't get away from offensive line injuries this year.
Yeah. And I mean, I think every team deals with that. It's just the nature of the position. But I think the Lane is good news that he was working because, you see him on a cart on Monday night at Lambeau.
The smallest cart of all time.
It was a small cart.
He changed his Twitter profile photo to him on that tiny cart.
Oh, is that right?
That he barely fit on.
Yeah, like if it was Mekhi Becton, like he's not getting on.
Yeah, what would happen?
He's not getting on that cart.
They'd have to have someone running next to him to hold him on there.
Have to get him an Uber or something. But that's really encouraging. And I mean, Landon, it's just one thing after another. I saw Tyler in the locker room. He was just there briefly at his locker. I didn't have a chance to talk to him, but at least they were all limited. Nobody on the O-line did not practice.
Yeah, and there was
but
no one on
estimation.
the team. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
No one on the team was a DNP.
Yeah. So short week, it's tough. I mean, it's not easy. Thursday night games are the worst. These guys will tell you, like, they're not even physically ready to practice until Wednesday. And you have a game Thursday. I do think we should note that I would assume from here on out, Wednesdays will be walkthroughs. It's about this time of year that Nick does that. Now, it could have been the short week.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll just jump into that right now.
I mean, we're more than halfway through. So it could be. I mean, I think Nick's pretty good about understanding what his team needs and, getting them off their feet when they need that. But at some point between here and like week 12, Wednesdays are going to be walkthroughs straight through. So they might have a couple more full practices, but it is good to note that.
Among the players who were listed as full participants, I think it's worth noting Nolan Smith still listed with the triceps, but full. So it looks like he got out of that first game healthy, which is a big deal. You never know, especially because this is a recurring injury with him. Yeah. I saw him yesterday.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I saw him yesterday wearing a sleeve on that arm. So it's still something I think that we're going to have to monitor the rest of the year.
And although Smart just played 19 snaps, it's crazy that Jalen Phillips played 53. Just after getting here and Nolan played 19, that's smart. And I don't think that number is going to go like up real fast until he's, you really got to be careful with him. He's a little fragile. And when you play the position the way he does at 240 pounds.
Yeah, I don't know if I like the word fragile for him.
I think it applies.
I don't know if it does. He has one injury. Yeah.
I mean, if you have a piece of glass and has one crack in it, you say it's fragile, right?
Okay, he's not a piece of glass, though. Yeah, I think he has one injury that you have to be concerned about right now.
Okay, I'm going to look up fragile and see if it applies. But no, I mean, maybe that's the wrong word. But I just think you have to be careful with them.
Sure. The other guys, we should mention...
Great album by Yes, though, Fragile.
Jacorian Bennett was activated from IR, full participant. He's been a full participant for a while. They just didn't pull the trigger on bringing him back. So he'll make his return to the field on Sunday, I would imagine.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll start or anything, but he'll be active.
Yeah, I think the way Dory played, I don't think Vic's going to change anything there. Obviously, Detroit's weapons are a little different than what Green Bay had out there.
Let me give a plug to my Dory Jackson story. I talked to him about his season and competition.
That was a great story. Yeah, everybody read that story.
He got really passionate talking to me about it. It was pretty cool. And I don't know if that means he's going to keep that job the rest. He might not keep it the rest of the next game, but his mindset was really refreshing.
Yeah, I would recommend everybody read that story. We were like sending each other quotes from each other's stories last night. I talked to Jacorian for a little bit yesterday. Really confident kid. I said, we haven't really seen you play much. Well, what can people expect from me? He's like, I'm a dog. It's just like, he said, look, I'm sticky in coverage. I'm physical. I'll come up and play the run. So he talks a good game. I like what I saw from him. It was limited snaps, but we'll see how he's in the mix, if he's in the mix.
I still think he'd give them the highest baseline.
I'm not sure I'm ready to say that just because I just haven't seen enough of them.
Not here, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch a whole lot of Raiders games the last 2 years.
I went back and watched him when they traded for him. It was pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think he could help them.
Yeah, could be right. Certainly, it's not, and I really like Adoree, and I like the story, and I mean, I think Healy's got some ability, but neither one of them's giving you the consistency that you really need at that position.
Yeah. And the only other one I wanted to mention was Darius Cooper with the shoulder.
Cooper.
I talked to him on Wednesday because I saw it happen in the game. It popped out again, which isn't great. He doesn't have a lot of fear that it's going to keep happening. He doesn't need any kind of surgery yet to tighten that up, but he's like, I got to make sure he slipped. It was on just the field was a little bit of a mess, and they didn't have studs in, I guess, at the time. But he's like, I got to learn to not brace my falls with that arm, which isn't easy to do.
Yeah, no, so, especially on a contact play. Sometimes you just don't have a choice. But yeah, hopefully he stays healthy.
One other thing I want to hit before the break. You had a chance to talk to Moro Ojomo about the really cool viral moment that I'm sure people have seen. If you haven't, he basically called out inside zone, alerted his teammates on that crucial 4th and 1.
Yeah, inside zone this way. And he was lining up on the defensive right side, and
the play was going to the offensive right.
Yeah, and he said it wasn't film study. He said they ran the exact same play. I heard the word. It was a one-word play. Sometimes when you're in hurry up, you have these one-word plays that are, like bell cow plays. So he knew the play. He said, I wasn't from watching film. I was from remembering the word. So I said, you have to be really confident. You know what's coming if you call it out. He said, well, I think, and as Zach Bond said later, everybody in the stadium knew what the play was. But yeah, he called it out. It was, it was that 4th and 1, and ended up being a 4-yard loss to the fumble, which didn't really matter because it would have been the Eagles' ball. And either way, Jalen Carter just swallowed it up, and
it was really good execution on the play from everyone up.
Yeah, it really was. They got great put, but Mora had that great quote. He's like, if you're a batter and you know what pitch is coming, you're going to really tee off on it, and that's what it was like. I mean, the defense knew the play, and Nick talks a lot, and Howie talks when we get to talk to him about having smart players, having a smart team, and I think that's where you saw it. And Moro said, I don't think people understand how important communication is on the field, and he said that was, it's like that had nothing to do with like how much you lift and how much you run and how much you practice. Like that was just being intelligent. He didn't call himself intelligent. He was just saying it was just, knowing what play was coming and communicating it, and might have won him the game. It was a huge play.
Mo is a really smart guy though. Like
he is.
Both football and book smart.
Yeah, we don't talk about him a lot, but man, he's playing great.
Having a great season.
Yeah.
A really big key to their success. We talked about all the players they lost. I mean, he's replacing their biggest free agent exit in terms of money. Yeah. He's playing really well.
And he's doing it at $103 million less than Milton.
Just about.
And Milton's playing well. But yeah, he's just another guy that at some point I was going to have to figure out. Got a lot of these defensive guys are going to need contracts.
Mm-hmm. Let's take a break. When we come back,
7th round pick.
I want to get into Eagles-Lions matchups, and then we have some questions to squeeze in here as well.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store and nissanusa.com today.
We are back on the Eagle Eye Podcast, brought to you by Nissan. Ruben Frank and Dave Zangaro. Eagles are 2.5-point favorites as they host the Detroit Lions on Sunday Night Football. This is going to be a fun game.
Yeah, and the Lions are really good, but they're not the same team. You get them outdoors. They're 500 team under Dan Campbell outdoors. They're like a 700 team indoors or at home. So I think they're still really good, and it's going to take a more consistent effort than they've gotten against good teams on both sides of the ball to get a dub. Can't wait.
Yeah, this is one of the games when the schedule comes out you're really looking forward to. We thought they were on a collision course last year in the playoffs and it didn't happen. So you get that game now.
Yeah, and I mean, if they win, if they beat the Packers and Lions back to back, get to 8-2, with one loss in the conference, I mean, it certainly doesn't guarantee anything, but it go a long way to giving them a shot at that number 1 seed. Also, their magic number is down to 5 to win a division, which is crazy. I think that's over the Cowboys, who have the next best record in the division, and I think the Cowboys play the Raiders. If the Eagles win and the Cowboys lose, which they probably will, your magic number is going to be 3, in November, which is crazy.
And you play them the following week.
Yeah. So only 3 coaches have gone to the playoffs their first 5 years. I think Nick's got a pretty good chance to join that group.
Yeah, I think he does. Let's get into these matchups in this game. The first one I have is Jalen Hurts in this offense against the Lions defense, which they really kind of major in man coverage, which is something the Eagles fare well against.
Yeah, and certainly could give AJ some opportunities. I think it will. And, I think Jalen likes facing man, and I think they're going to have some shots.
He's been really good at it this year. The Lions, 43.9% of the dropbacks they've faced, they've been in man coverage. So the highest rate in the league, and they've been good at it. But the Eagles have also been very good at it. 9.1 yards per attempt against man, the second best in the league. Hurts has been really good. A lot of that is they've improved against the blitz so much, and when teams blitz, they're playing man coverage most of the time behind that. So, I think chances for A.J. Brown in this game, he talked about it on Wednesday, they're probably going to cloud the coverage and make sure they have extra attention on him, but you can't do that for every single snap. There are going to be some times in this game where he's just one-on-one, and by the way, the Lions are probably going to be without Terrion Arnold, who has a concussion.
Yeah, he's in the protocol. I think 13 out of Jalen's 16 touchdown passes have been against man, and one of his 1 interceptions. So all his interceptions. But yeah, I think this has a chance to be a pretty good game for AJ. And I guess the corollary to all this is that, I mean, Devontae's having just an incredible year, and the numbers are really good. They're not historic or anything, but if it's not going well with AJ, just thank God for Devontae, because he's been incredible.
Yeah. Saquon we talked about it during our bye week episode. Do we think we're going to see more of the 150 game against the Giants, or more of not getting to 100? In the first game back from the bye week, it wasn't great again. 60 yards on 22 carries. The Lions' run defense is pretty good.
Yeah, they don't. I think you had a stat. They don't. Their yards after contact is best in the league.
Yeah, they just do not give up yards after contact. They're a good tackling team,
and that's a big part of Saquon's game. It's going to be tough sledding for him.
Mm-hmm. I think so. They have Alan McNeil in the middle of that defense, and if you're like, wait, why does that name sound so familiar? That was the draft where Tom Donahoe got really upset that the Eagles traded back and lost out on Alan McNeil, and they ended up drafting Milton Williams, who was good here for the 4 years he was here, but Alan McNeil is very good as well.
Yeah. That was a funny video, wasn't it? Yeah, if Saquon can have a big game against this run defense, they're going to win the game. But I just don't have a lot of confidence. But it'll certainly help to have Cam back, and have a
if he's back.
If he's back, I think it's trending that way. But yeah, you're right. So if they can run against that front, it's going to go a long way to winning the game.
They face another elite pass rusher in this game, Aiden Hutchinson, who he's been excellent, Rube. He is such a fun player. 7 sacks through 9 games, 48 pressures, second in the NFL. He's dangerous.
Yeah, he's really good. He's one of the better guys. And again, they have 2 good pass rushers. I mean, he's the centerpiece. I thought it was big. I thought the Packers pressured at times, but Jalen wasn't sacked. I thought he was better moving around the pocket, being aware of where the pressure was coming from. So he's going to have to do that again.
Mm-hmm. And we'll see about the health of Lane Johnson in this game. Even if he plays, we'll keep an eye on that ankle and see if he's as good.
Yeah.
Lane is one of those guys who stops taping his ankles. because he liked the mobility of it. He'll probably have to tape that ankle in this game.
Yeah. Yeah.
I once joked with him that he stopped taping his ankles because Jason Peters was hogging all the tape. Jason used to,
Yeah.
I mean,
He used a
JP
whole
would-
roll on
yeah.
each ankle. Yeah.
But that's something that just Lane's health and how effective he is in this game.
Yeah, that's big.
And you'd like him to be really effective in this game because you have the guy who took away his All-Pro the last 2 years on the other side.
That's true.
Potentially. He's hurt too.
Yeah.
Eagles red zone offense versus the Lions red zone defense. The Eagles statistically still have the best red zone offense in terms of percentage this season. They have been in the red zone so infrequently that it's a problem.
Yeah, they didn't get in the red zone at all on Monday night. Technically, because Jalen fumbled to the 14, but the play started at
Well, they
20.
did get in their red zone once. It was Jalen scrambled ahead for a 6-yard gain, and then Tank Bigsby lost 3 on the next play.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had one official trip in
Okay,
the red
my
zone.
bad.
It was before the field goal.
Okay. I thought they're listed as with 0, but I was probably bogged down in obs at that point. But I probably should watch the game. Somebody asked me about that. Is it officially a red zone
That one wasn't.
possession? He got to the 14 when he fumbled, but the play started at the 25.
Yeah, it's where the play starts.
Yeah.
But they did have one possession in the red zone, and it
Well, I stand
was an
corrected.
0 for 1. But yeah, they've only been in the red zone 21 times in 9 games.
That's crazy.
It's the second fewest in the league behind just the Tennessee Titans, who have been in the red zone 16 times. You don't want to be with the Titans and Jets in that conversation.
Or in any conversation.
Yeah. So, like, yes, they're very good when they get there. They don't get there enough.
Very true.
Meanwhile, Lions' red zone defense hasn't been great. They are 25th in red zone defense.
I'm trying to find that play because I don't believe it happened. So the Jalen scramble was down to the 17.
Yeah.
Then Tank lost 3 yards. That was on the field goal drive, as you said.
And then
So-
there's a false start, I believe.
It was delayed game,
Oh, okay.
and then a coward's draw to Shipley. So yeah, got to the 17, barely the red zone.
Now, did you really not believe me then?
No, I did.
Okay.
You were at the game. I was in the studio.
Want to flip to the other side?
Let's do it.
Lions offense, they're a good running team. Jameer Gibbs, David Montgomery, pretty good two-headed running back system.
And I love the way they use them. I think it's really creative. Sometimes they alternate by series, sometimes by play. You really don't know who's coming. And yeah, I mean, I think Gibbs has been a little bit better this year, but Montgomery's really dangerous too.
Cooper DeJean versus Amon-Ra St. Brown. Even though St. Brown plays inside, outside, actually gets more snaps outside these days, but they don't face an elite slot receiver every single week. When he's in the slot, he's elite.
Yeah, I mean, he's elite wherever he lines up. And he's just a great receiver. And that's a matchup you really like. It's a little I'm just looking for the percentage. He's in the slot a little under 50%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Quinyon will be on him. Cooper will be on him.
Well, how do you think they handle that? I've been thinking about how they deploy their corners in this game because Jameson Williams is such a threat too.
Yeah.
And he mostly plays outside. Do you bank on the fact that you're going to get Cooper on St. Brown half the time anyway? And then do you have Quinyon follow Jameson Williams?
That's interesting.
Because it doesn't always have to be.
Yeah.
There have been plenty of defenses where the traveling corner doesn't face the best receiver all the time. He'll face the second best and try to wipe him out of the game.
Yeah, I mean, they're both pretty formidable. I mean, St. Brown's better, but yeah, they're both really good.
You could argue that Jameson Williams is more dangerous.
Yeah.
'Cause he can beat you with a deep ball.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, St. Brown's kind of an underneath guy. Just piles up the catches and gets
Jameson Williams is averaging over 17 yards a catch.
Yeah, I'm guessing Amon-Ra St. Brown's like around 11, 10 or 11. I could look it up, but yeah, they're very different kind of players.
Would you think about that if you're Vic?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting approach.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Amon Ra is at 10.8. It's pretty low.
Yeah. He's a possession guy.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing. I'm not saying that
No.
to be disparaging. He's a great possession guy.
It's something the Eagles could use.
Mm-hmm. The next matchup, Jalen Phillips against Penei Sewell. Sewell's on the injury report. The Lions had like 20 guys on the injury report. I don't know if they're one of the teams that just kind of loads up early in the week and then they take the guys off. So interested to see if a lot of like some big names on the first injury report. I got to see how that plays out. But if Sewell's out there, he's excellent. You know, we talk about Lane Johnson so much, and should Lane have been all pro? Like maybe, but like not to say Sewell didn't deserve it. He is excellent.
Yeah, you could even do a matchup between Lane and Sewell because they're the two best, I think the two best in the league. But yeah, I think Lane deserved first team All Pro last year. I voted for him. I voted for Sewell the year before. I think he had a better year than Lane, but they're both great and they're both fun to watch. And that's a tough matchup.
Yeah. And Phillips, by the way, mostly played on the left side this year in Miami. In recent years in Miami, he said he can play on either side. It's very clear he's more comfortable on the left side, which means facing right tackles.
What were those numbers Monday? Do you have that with him?
It was mostly, I think it was like all but one
On the left?
on the left side.
Interesting.
So almost exclusively, which is where Nolan was almost exclusively playing. It looks more like Nolan is going to end up on the right side more than Jalen Phillips. Or maybe that's a product of, hey, he's already new to the defense.
Yeah.
Maybe don't put him on the side of the football he's not most comfortable.
Right. Try to get him comfortable out there. I'm still blown away that he came in and played 53 snaps just after.
Yeah, the snap police couldn't get to Vic.
That's right.
The last one is just Eagles linebackers against Sam Laporta. Really good tight end. They missed out on seeing Tucker Kraft last week, but Laporta's very good. And the Eagles have been excellent. As you'd imagine, a team with good linebacker play would be. They've been excellent against tight ends this year.
Yeah, there's been a few big plays, but not a lot of big games from tight ends.
Yeah, so they are third in terms of third best in the league in terms of opposing tight end production.
Is that based on yards or catches?
Yards.
Yeah. Yeah, doesn't surprise me with their linebackers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Matchups.
How good did Nakobe play?
He's been great.
Man, when I rewatched the game, that's the thing that just jumped out at me the most. Was he's back. He's like back. Anyway.
Yeah. He's changed the defense.
Yeah.
For sure. He brings an attitude too. It's more than just his play. Like he brings a kind of a hard-nosed attitude to that defense. Does. Let's get to some questions.
All
Eagle at NBCUni.com. We're just going to jump right into it because we're running out of time. First one is from David. Hi, Dave and Rube. I love the pod and appreciate your level-headed takes on the birds. My question is related to A.J. Brown. Is it possible the reason his production has gone down is because his speed or agility are diminishing? I know he's been underutilized this season, but could some of the issues be that he's not getting separation and therefore not getting open?
Yeah, and we've talked about that. And Jason Avant on pregame was the first to bring that up weeks ago, and he said he just doesn't. And look, he was a wide receiver in the NFL for a long time, so I defer to him on these things. And he said from the film he's watched, and he's a big film guy, he has lost a little bit of speed. And we know he's had some injuries. He's not getting younger. He's not an old guy by any means, but 28. I think that could be part of the equation.
I asked Nick Sirianni about that.
You did.
Here was his answer. Yeah, I think he's moving around really well and getting out of his breaks. Still physical, strong, quick. I still see all the same physical attributes.
Yeah, I'm not sure I do.
Okay. Next one is from Hari. Dear Ruben Dave, Big Eagle.
Hari?
Mm-hmm. Hari.
P-A-R-R-I?
Hari.
Hari, H-A-R-I.
Yeah.
Okay.
Big Eagles fan from India from 1993 when I was a student in Philly a long time ago who loves listening to your podcast. Eagle Eye is the best podcast out there for content. Anyways, my question is, can this offense be turned around? If you have to do something to make this offense just functional, what would it be? I'm not even asking for elite.
If I had one move, I think I'd get a new play caller.
Hmm.
I think I'm at that
that
point.
is now that would be a drastic step.
It would, but I mean, we're 9 games in now. You know, this isn't just. And I was encouraged by the way their offense operated against Minnesota and the Giants, but you know, Monday was a really big step backwards, really big regression.
Who are you handing the play sheet to?
Coach Matty available?
Mm-hmm.
No, probably Scott Leffler, I guess, is the obvious guy. We know Jalen has a good relationship with him. He might be the guy.
Do we know that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, he did it at Bowling Green, so I guess the same level. You know, so who does what are they in the MAC?
Yeah, we did this 2 weeks ago.
We did.
Yeah.
So
You
they're not,
did.
They're not like playing.
I wasn't a part of it.
They're not playing Oberlin or like Capital. Yeah, I think I'm at that point. Maybe see how Sunday night goes, but if they score 17 points, I mean, gosh, with the talent they have in this offense,
I get it. It's sometimes like a drastic move like that. If it doesn't work, you're sunk. It's such a big swing.
but how can it can't get worse, can it?
Yeah, because it consistently they haven't been there, but there have been moments where they've been fine. Like and they are 7-2. So like I think that's the fear is that you make a change, it doesn't work, and then all hope is lost because you've already played your biggest card.
What concerns me about Kevin, and you're right, they have had times where they've looked really, really good, but they seem to get worse in a lot of games where, like even Monday, that first drive looked really good, and I'm thinking they're going to score 28 points tonight, and yeah, he fumbled, and who knows what would have happened if they punched it in, but I mean, I guess it counts as a red zone fumble, but not a red zone play. Interesting. I'm just concerned by their inability to sustain that because that offense from that drive up until those back-to-back plays and the Saquon play was really just, I mean, it wasn't a great offensive. It was a 41 yard play, but it was a run and catch. It was Saquon being Saquon, and then the Devontae touchdown. That was it. I mean, that was their game. So I need to see more, and if I don't, I think I would go there.
Yeah, I get it. I think that sometimes those drastic moves, like it's such a like it can flip a season one way or the other.
Yeah, and that's the
It's
thing.
like think about like 2023.
Yeah,
like we see the example of how it sometimes does not work out.
it got worse. But the defense under
Sean
Desai, thank you, in 23 was playing better than the offense is now. I mean, they had hit a little rut for a couple games, but yeah, I mean, there was a top 10 defense like through week 7 or 8, something like that. What would your move be? Do you have a card you want to play?
Yeah, it wouldn't be the big card yet. It would be more leaning into some of those concepts we've seen work. So, like when they're healthy enough to go jumbo, do a little bit of that. I don't need to see Grant Calcaterra out there blocking. I think the under center is something that they did a little bit. They found a little bit there. They didn't run it a ton, but like under center, using play action off of that, I think that stuff works. And this is going to sound real simple. Find ways to get 11 the football.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's not necessarily a schematic answer, but like, yeah, he's pretty good.
I mean, those are all things they've tried to a certain extent.
Yeah, but like minimally.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much more you can run Big Fred out there. When he played 20 plays that one game.
It wasn't that much. It was like 12.
12, 20, same thing.
Nope. Not the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, they're all good ideas. I don't know if that's enough.
It might not be, but like that's where you start. And they should have started there long ago, and they got there a little too slow.
How many more games do you need to see of the offense being inconsistent to consider, for you, a change in coordinator or play caller, I should say?
It's a good question. I think it really depends on what it looks like. And like if it looks like Green Bay, not many. If it's somewhere in between, I think I'd ride it out a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, if they score, I don't know, 24.
Because, like, I understand what you're saying. They haven't had consistency. The 2 games before the bye week were pretty good.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Next one is from Shannon. So here's the issue to me. The O-line. There's not enough depth there to...
I'm going to interrupt you. I'm sorry, and I apologize. But
No, you're not
the
sorry.
Minnesota game was, I think it was good in comparison to how they've been playing, but it wasn't like, I mean, it wasn't, they have like 360 yards, which is good.
Really good.
But, I mean, it looked great compared to what they had been doing. The Giants game, they did better, but it was a Giants. So maybe I was premature thinking they'd turn a corner. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. So here's the issue to me. The O-line. There's not enough depth there to actually be able to say they can go deep into the playoffs just with them. There are 4 on IR, or not on an injury report, one who hasn't even played a snap. There's a reason to be worried. Jordan is the only starter who's been fully healthy. Yes, games are being won, but Jalen Hurts has been sacked 25 times. His QB average isn't over 70%. Getting Alexander was a waste. Roseman should have been worried about getting another tackle or guard. I think our secondary was already fine to begin with. Thoughts?
Well, first of all, I think probably half those sacks are on Jalen. I don't know what the real number is, but something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think the O-line pass blocking has been pretty good for the most part. I think a lot of the sacks are Jalen just kind of running into trouble. Maybe not half, but how many sacks have they allowed? I don't have that, but yeah, I think a good chunk of them. And who's the offensive lineman who hasn't played a snap? I'm missing that.
I don't know. Just get to the point of...
Well, he wrote that. I mean,
Okay.
is he talking about Cam missing a couple games? I think that to give up, I mean, you're not going to get an offensive lineman who's going to help for what you gave up for Jaire Alexander. So it's kind of apples and oranges. I wouldn't have minded getting, I'm sure he was looking for you're not going to get offensive linemen for cheap who can play, who can help you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I wanted to just talk about the overarching theme of that, which is like the offensive line is probably the biggest reason for their offensive struggles, I think.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
And I think AJ kind of alluded to that a little bit. He's
Did he?
like, yeah, in a roundabout way, and maybe I shouldn't be looking into it too much, but he basically said, like, no, things have changed. We have to be different. I think what's changed is that they can't run the football the way they did last year, and they're still trying to.
Yeah.
Like, that's the button they keep trying to push, and it's not working because I don't think the line is healthy enough to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I think Landon's not the Landon we're used to. Cam has missed a couple games. Mekhi Becton was a much better run blocker than Tyler Steen. So your 3 interior guys, there's issues there. So, yeah.
Next one from Nick. Obviously, Howie Roseman knocked the Jalen Phillips trade out of the park. There's a trade I feel like no one talks about this year when listing all of them that Howie has made, and that's the trade for Fred Johnson. The recent emergence of frequently using the jumbo package to create success has helped spark the offense. Also, I no longer start sweating bullets when I see Matt Pryor going in for an injured tackle. He has truly helped with stabilizing the O-line, which was questionable at times early in the season.
He obviously did not read my 10 observations post-game because I wrote about Big Fred and how clutch it was that how he got him back from Jacksonville. It was a weird deal. He was here and then he goes there briefly and then comes back. He's a good player and he's head and shoulders better than Matt Pryor, I think.
At tackle, for sure.
At tackle, yeah. Maybe not a
guard.
guard.
Yeah, their insistence on trying to force Matt Pryor to play tackle when we have so much evidence that it's not, like, it's strange to me.
Yeah, I didn't get that. But
then again, I said the same thing about Brett Toth playing center, and he's been fine. So
yeah, he has. But he's not Cam.
Yeah. Speaking of Brett, this one is from a Brett. Hey, guys. From South Jersey, been a long-time listener and lover of the pod.
Thank you.
We all know Jalen Carter is going to get a big contract extension this coming offseason. All of a sudden, it looks like Nakobe Dean, who's in the last year of his deal, should be a legitimate candidate for a new contract. You also have guys like Nolan Smith, Jordan Davis, etc., who will be eligible for extensions coming up. Not to mention the year after, Hugh and Coop will be up, or at least eligible. How do we keep all these talented young players?
You can't. I don't think you can. I just don't know how he's a miracle worker when it comes to these things, but there's a salary cap, and there's only so many voidable years you can give guys to spread that out. I don't know. With Jihad and Bond now on a big contract, can you keep Nakobe? I'd hate to lose him, but sometimes you have to make tough decisions, and I mean, Nakobe's price tag's going up. So,
yeah, you start to understand when you looked at the picture why CJ isn't here anymore, CJ Gardner-Johnson, because there's a ton of guys I have to figure out how to pay. Now Moro Ojomo's he's going to get paid at some point.
yeah,
Jordan Davis is going to get a decent contract.
probably.
They still haven't paid Reed.
Can you sign all three interior linemen?
Probably not. That's probably not the best way to build.
Yeah,
We're talking about Nolan being eligible. Jalen Phillips, if he keeps playing like that, you're going to want to keep him.
yeah. There's only
And then it's a good point about Quinyon and Cooper at some point. You're going to need to pay those guys. It's why it's they've been so heavy on paying the offense that at some point it has to flip. Maybe the whole A.J. Brown situation ends up working in that way that maybe he's gone, but that's less you have to contribute to him. Not that you want to lose him. He's the last guy you want to lose, but maybe that's the way to kind of do it. It's not going to be easy.
It's not going to be easy.
And it's something that Howie he's been thinking about it.
It's keeping him up nights. And if you lose Josh Sweat, Milton Williams last year, the next couple of years, this team's going to lose defensive players who are a big part of what they do. There's just no way around it.
Good questions. We appreciate those. Eagle at NBCUni.com. Rube, do you have a prediction yet? Are you leaning one way or the other?
Yeah, I was leaning Detroit until I just kind of looked at their, Dan Campbell's record against winning teams versus Nick's record. Nick's been incredible. They find ways to win these games. And I look at the Lions, and they're one of three teams that's top 10 in both offense and defense, and the Eagles are 18th and 23rd. So on paper, the Lions are going to win, but I just feel like the Eagles will find a way. I like having this game here as opposed to, in that dome in Detroit, next to that casino by that Mexican restaurant where we got served in about 30 seconds. We ordered and got our food in 45 seconds? I never figured out how that was possible. But anyway, I'm going to Eagles. I just think they seem to find a way when everything looks like they're just not going to win this game. They find a way. So I'm going Philly.
Okay.
How about you? You have a pick yet?
I don't have a pick yet. The injury reports kind of threw me off a little bit on Wednesday, if I'm honest. That Detroit injury report. I want more information. So I'm going to wait to pin myself down on a pick. But I'll be honest, I'm leaning Lions.
Okay.
And I have not picked against the Eagles all year.
When's the last time you picked against them? Do you remember?
I forget when I took my shot last year. And that's what it is. This team is really good. And if you're constantly picking these games, you're trying to find where they might lose, honestly. And I think it's a tough spot. Short week against a physical team. Not that the Eagles aren't a physical team themselves, but I think the short week isn't great. And honestly, I don't have a ton of confidence in their offense figuring it out right now.
Yeah.
I don't know how you could after watching what we saw a week ago. So I think it'll be a tough game. And typically you're right. When they're in these tough, close games, they figure out a way to win. But
what was the stat I sent you last night? I mean, in close games, they're 30-8
Yeah.
in one possession games since opening day 2022.
But I also don't think they're going to win out.
I agree.
So I think I am leaning toward picking Detroit in this game.
Okay, that's fun. Yeah, it's a.
And before anyone accuses me of I haven't picked against the Eagles all year.
Yeah,
I think this is the time I'm going to.
I picked against them. Oh, I picked against them in Minnesota.
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's the one time I picked against them. I just didn't like what I saw in those two, especially the Giants game, but they find a way.
Yep. All right, that's it for the Eagle Eye Podcast. If you enjoy us here, please rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, click the like button, subscribe there as well. We'll talk to you after Oh gosh, the middle of the night, another middle of the night podcast coming up for us. Ruben Frank, I'm Dave Zangaro. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you soon.